Hello everyone, welcome back. It's now day 3 of our Inflammation Buster Challenge. Okay, I hope you've started with our stack of things that we can do right now, this week, to try to bring down our levels of inflammation. Okay, so first of all we started with food. Okay, remember we've got the triggers and the mediators, and food is both. Right? It can trigger an inflammatory response and it can keep it going. But you can also use it to reverse the process and bring down that chronic inflammation. Okay? And you can do it using your favorite foods as long as they're on that list, because every category, remember, has its food inflammation rating. All right? And then what's the next one? We started with food, which is a huge subject. We could talk for weeks just about all the different aspects of managing and balancing your inflammation with diet. Okay, the part you can control. Next step was taking care of our mouth, right? It's like the gateway to the rest of the body. And once again, it can mediate, keep that chronic inflammation going if you don't address those 700 species of bacteria that are floating around all the time. We talked about the different steps you can take, right? What kind of brush you can use to increase the percentage of good versus bad bacteria in the mouth. What kind of toothpaste. Forget the white stuff, go with the black stuff, go with essential oils. And this is a key to reducing inflammation, right? And there are specific tests, which we'll talk about later, right, where you can measure your progress, actually, either in the lab or at home. Today, we're going to talk about the muscles, all right? They're a huge, major organ in the body, and they, too, can be utilized to bring down that inflammation, all right? So how does that happen? Well, we have to talk about exercise. And a lot of people, including myself, put it down. Oh, I'm allergic to exercise. Let someone else exercise. It's not for me. But here's the thing. Muscles are all over our body because they enable us to move. And muscles need movement to work. All right? When you don't move, you'll notice your whole body feels kind of loggy. And I recently have been going through that piece due to a knee injury. I haven't been moving my usual pace, and you can feel it. You just slow down and everything feels a little heavier and it gets inflamed. So you don't have to be a marathoner though, okay? You can pick your favorite kind of exercise, and as long as you do it regularly, it's enough. Just a walk. It doesn't have to be a race. Just a walk 30 minutes a day is enough. But just like every piece of this stack of things we can do to reduce inflammation is individual, so is this. All right? We're not going to go to cookie cutter. It may sound like it at first, right? These broad categories. But in its application, we're going to individualize everything. So you can pick your favorite way of moving, all right? Maybe you do love exercise. Maybe you like to go hiking every day. Maybe you are a runner. But it's enough to be doing yoga, all right? Just movement. We have to throw out that paradigm of how many calories are you going to burn. It doesn't have to be high intensity. It can be low intensity. Just walking. My favorite thing is gardening. Because when you garden, and you're really into it, you get out there and you don't want to stop, and you're lifting and you're walking and you're stretching, and it's just part of the task. Housework, my goodness. If you love dancing, and you want to go to a dance class a few times a week, but in between, you can walk, you can do your housework, and make it fun, Switch off hands with that vacuum. Stretch when you're dusting. Bend down and do the baseboards. It's just movement. That's enough. but it needs to be sustainable. Right? Think of it this way. It's not the perfect analogy, but we talked about the cells and being at the center of our energy, right? The mitochondria are in there, and they are the little engines of our movement and our enzymatic processes of life, really. So imagine a car's engine, right? And you let it sit there for a few months, and you go to turn it on and the battery's dead, right? But if you had, run it every day, just on an errand or around the block, doesn't have to be a long trip, the battery would keep charging. Well, it's kind of like that. When we move, our muscles get strength, resilience. The lymph system, which is a huge thing we never think about or talk about, it's pumped just by movement of your body. That's the pump. It doesn't have a separate heart or anything. So our body was meant to move. And when we don't, our inflammation levels go up, and all we need to do is move, basically. Now, here's the other thing, though. You want quality muscle. When you see a marathoner, they don't have a lot of muscle, but it's high quality. And one thing we can do, and there's a link in there, there's a product you can take called Active Aminos. It's the 9 essential amino acids plus arginine, and these are the basic building blocks of protein, which is the ingredient in muscles. So you can increase the percentage of quality muscle that you have. And what's another trick? Here's a great little trick. If you do your specialized movement, whatever you decide is good for you and enough for you, doesn't have to be intense. In fact, it shouldn't hurt you ever. Okay? But if you do it first thing in the morning, you're fasting. Okay? If you add to that being outdoors in sunlight for that period of time, and you exercise, all of a sudden you've got 3 factors that produce what's called autophagy. It means basically the cells eat themselves. The cells clean up all that stuff. Again, we are just giving our body half a chance to do its job to heal itself. And healing involves bringing down and balancing that amount of inflammation. And by the way, we do need a little bit of inflammation. In Ayurvedic, in some of the ancient Eastern wisdom and Southeastern and Asian wisdom, fire, Agni, that's life. When we digest our food, we're burning our food. And we'll talk more about that on Friday, and just what we do digest as part of life and how we do that. But the fire that you needs to be just so, and not off the wall, inflamed and hurting yourself. So you can take this special formula that's going to let you clean up your cells, add the little building blocks of protein, the active aminos, which is a nice powder you just put in water, have it instead of a snack, and there you've got your stack: food choice, oral health, and now movement. Your choice of movement. So here's a little thing you can also do is measure. And by the way, somewhere in your emails you should have gotten what's called an MSQ, a multi-symptom questionnaire. I urge you to fill that out. It's really simple. Just be honest with yourself. See what your score is. And that measures your inflammation as well. And save that score, and then do that again down the line, and see how you're actually taking more and more charge of your own body and your own degree of inflammation. Right? So you can also measure the amount of inflammation with tests that your doctor can order in the lab. Interferon gamma is one, and CRP, C-reactive protein. When there's inflammation, they are elevated, and you can watch them come down. There's also specialized tests you do at home, just with a little blood spot. That's part of functional medicine. and I can interpret that with you. And again, it's all individualized. What is good for you might not be ideal for the next person. So here's a little homework. What's your choice? Right now, what's your favorite way of moving that you can do in a sustainable way that you do on a regular basis? And if you haven't been moving, of all the things I mentioned, what's your choice? Dance, yoga, tai chi, housework, gardening, running, hiking, cycling, walking. Be brave. Put it in the comments if you will. It takes a lot of bravery. But commit to yourself. Now tomorrow we're going to add yet another aspect of how you can take charge. Learn about the wonderful way the body will work given half a chance to reduce inflammation. We're going to talk about sleep. All right, so I'll see you then. All right, bye-bye now.